news when it breaks and every half hour. This is the NL Morning News with Jeff Andreas.
Good morning on this Tuesday, April the 26th. 6:41 is the time. This is the NL Morning News. As always, to be a part of the conversation, you can call or text 250-374-5345. All right, pandemic restrictions, right? We don't really have too much of those going on anymore, so slowly lifting, which means more and more people are making that shift back to in-office work, right? Actually going to the office, working in person, seeing other individuals. It's honestly, it's refreshing for people like myself. Well, I never really left the office, but for some, maybe it's a little bit of a anxiety-driven issue moving back into the office. Maybe you're not fully comfortable yet. Whatever the case may be, that's just the reality that we find ourselves in. And of course, as we go to this post-pandemic era workplace, things might look a little bit different, right? We want to get a little bit more accessible. We want to be a little bit more technologically advanced and doing things in a different way. Well, enter Danavation digital smart labels, the electronic shelf labels, also known as digital tags, digital labels, e-paper displays, whatever word you want to use for it. They have a myriad of uses within the workplace. So let's talk about how they can help improve things and maybe improve your own particular workplace scenario. And I'm going to be joined now by Danavation Technology CEO John Ricci. John, how you doing here this morning?
Great. Thanks for having me. Good morning, Jeff.
Yeah, well, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you coming on. And you know, before we get into this, let's just get a quick definition again of what smart labels are. You know, we've talked about this a few different times, but, you know, for anyone who hasn't heard it, what exactly is a smart label or an e-paper display or a digital tag? What does this mean?
Great. So you did a good job. Thanks. A little electronic device that displays pricing information or promos in real time. They would sit at the edge of a shelf. We're talking grocery stores, for example, and replace all of your paper. There is no need to change pricing the old way, which involved printing internally or externally with a laser printer of sorts. Perfed paper, very labor-intensive process, changing 2,000 prices with your file management team, et cetera, you know, which is a slow process, labor-intensive, error-prone at times, things get missed, and, you know, moving into the next generation of retail, digital smart label system will do everything for you, and it makes you operationally more efficient.
Yeah, you know, for me, it's pretty easy to understand, you know, when looking at a retail store or a grocery chain, for example, how this would be effective. Instead of walking around with that label maker and changing all those paper labels, you can just digitally change what the price of a product is within the store. Very, very simple, very quick, very easy. I can grasp that pretty easily. What about in a workplace, though? Like, how do these have more of a usage outside of those, you know, easy to understand retail locations? Because there really is a wide array of how this could be useful.
Great question. So office environment, for example, we have a system that will display who the person is inside the office or the workstation. A lot of companies now are going to hoteling, where you could be in a different office every couple of days, a different floor, depending on the size of your business. A digital smart label system. This tag sits on your desk or outside your office. Like I said, it'll display everything on your calendar. So as you update your calendar, it would update the digital smart labels outside of your office. So it keeps you really up to date. As you move around office workspace to another, it'll follow you around. So you'll always get that personalized touch, regardless of where you're working in an office. And that's what we're doing to digitize office environments. Obviously, outside of that, healthcare, updating and modernizing aftercare facilities and displaying patient records on icons for doctors and nurses to retrieve. The patient record is immediately updated from a nursing station, for example. So as a person moves in and out of a room, all the relevant information on that person is displayed. So everything moves pretty quick. There's no delays. There's no 1 hour ago a person left, another person came in. So things like that. Automotive applications. We're looking at advertising because we have a wireless system with no power required to the unit. You could put advertising on our large format digital smart tags and we have different sizes in various parts of your business. It could be anywhere from look at museums and schools and sports stadiums, arenas, baseball stadiums, football stadiums, things like that. Anywhere where changing of advertising is still labor intensive, this system will allow you to change out ads and information at the click of a keystroke. So it's quite revolutionary in what it's doing.
All right, so I think that's a pretty good explanation of some of its uses, and we talked about exactly what they are. One of the things I think that's evident is, reducing paper. We know and understand we're going away from this paper world that we live in, printing things all the time. I can understand where the cost savings can be realized from that perspective, but this really does, make the workplace a little bit less expensive for people who are paying the bills, doesn't it? I mean, outside of the paperless world that we're talking about, I guess, how else does this help to maybe save some money for some companies, make them, more efficient?
Well, if we look at grocery, let's take a look around right now. Cost of goods sold right now is very volatile. I don't think there's ever been a point in time where prices fluctuate to the retailer, for example, as much as they do nowadays. Shipping, things are just more expensive. Maintaining your pricing strategy, maintaining your margins in a store, it's critical to a store's success. Maintaining your competitive edge in a store is critical to a store's success, and managing inventory and your perishables and your food loss. We speak to customers and they cannot keep up in a traditional store anymore. They cannot walk around their stores daily changing prices to be competitive or to capture margin back. The cost of a product that they put on for sale has gone up 4-6%. They have to capture that margin back somehow, and it's taxing on a company right now to have a crew go around constantly in the store to do that. You want to be operationally efficient, and this system will not only save you. When you talk about saving labor, it's basically going to give your employees or take away those tedious tasks and give them more important things to focus on. So you're not losing out on any kind of workforce. That's if you can even find one. That's the other problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have we talk about labor savings, but when you don't have no labor to save, you still have a store to run. So this basically takes away all your pain points as it pertains to getting people in the store, file management, eliminating the errors. And we talk about saving paper, of course, and saving ink and toner and cartridges, things like that. But what margin capture can you recover? Inventory, food loss, perishables. Yeah. The error rates in stores. I think if I can half the error rate for a retailer, I'm keeping money back in his pocket. And I like to tell a lot of people, and I'm no expert on this, but by experience, companies will lose money when they're making a lot of money. And if you don't look at the little things, it's just you get a false sense of security. You think you're making money, you're making a profit, you're fine with it, but that's the time when a lot of dollars are leaving your building, and you don't really find it then because you're not really looking. If you were barely breaking even, you would look for every cent that you took. So
I see what you're saying.
Putting the system in place now is going to make it a lot easier for you to manage all of your costs and capture money that is basically blown out the window every month.
Now, this question doesn't, I guess, mean a whole heck of a lot when we're talking about the retail side of things, because I was going to say, what happens if there's no power? If the power goes out, you're probably not going to be able to go to a grocery store. Most of us pay with, credit cards or debit cards these days, which isn't going to work if there's no power. So, in terms of that, not really an issue. But what about in the office? Like, for some of these efficiencies that we've talked about, if the power goes out, am I sort of just out of luck when it comes to using these? Do they have some sort of backup? Like, how does that work? Is there a way for smart labels to have a place in a world that doesn't necessarily have electricity for a brief period of time?
Well, of course. And most companies will have a backup generator system. But that being said, you only require power to the system or to the tag. Let's take a tag when you're making the change. So if I'm changing the tag from John to Jeff, and the power goes out, and the last name displayed was Jeff, you'll still see Jeff. So you only require the power to do the pricing update, the promo update, or the advertising. Other than that, power can go out, and whatever was displayed last on that tag will be displayed. So you don't have a worry of things going blackout. They don't go white. They don't go blank. You don't lose the face of it at all. So basically, you're safe in that regard.
Okay.
And in the grocery stores, I mean, if the power went out, we were asked that. But even in the office environment, so you're not going to lose anything.
John, I'll get you out of here on this, but, it's probably been about a year since the first time we spoke. We've spoken a couple of times, over the course of the last 12 months or so, but how has the Danavation technology changed or expanded? Like, have you seen a big expansion of your company, of your product over that 12-month period? As we've seen through the pandemic, things like this are definitely becoming more and more sought after, right? Changes in technology. How do we do things better? How do we become more efficient? You mentioned the labor shortage and needing to do things in a more efficient way. Have you seen a lot more interest in what you guys do?
There's a lot more interest right now, and we get constant phone calls. Our reps are kept very busy. What's happening on two fronts is there's an increase in interest to go digital. And the second thing is there's an interest at the corporate level. So, we knock on a lot of doors. We've digitized, initially way back, the one-offs, two-offs. Now we're starting to get staged rollouts happening. We signed a deal with a couple large retailers in the past couple of weeks that should be announced shortly. We're just putting all the, crossing our T's and dotting our I's on that agreement, where we're getting a lot of interest from larger retailers right now to go digital, and we're at the point where we're not doing any more pilots. We're just doing start points are first or second store. Let's do the first two stores, work out all the bugs, and then we'll know what we want moving forward. So there seems to be a lot of interest, and we're excited about the prospects. We have a lot of things happening south of the border. We have a large Canadian retailer that's using our software right now that we're happy about. We should be moving across Canada in the next 3-6 months, where we have a pretty decent presence happening in Quebec right now and Eastern Canada. So we're moving this way. We're beyond the baby steps, and we're beyond the pilots. We're ready to go. We have some fantastic software, which makes it real easy to integrate into a customer's POS system, quick sync technology, a do-it-yourself module where we can ship the complement to a store, and it's quite easy to do the install themselves in a couple of days. So we're making it very user-friendly, and we have software that is second to nobody with some fantastic forward tech software coming out in the next, I'd say, 6 months.
All right. Well, maybe we'll catch up in 6 months' time and revisit this conversation at that stage. But, John, I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for doing this. And, we'll like I said, we'll catch up soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, Jeff. Have a great day.
Yeah, you as well. That's John Ricci. He is the president and CEO of Danavation Technologies Incorporated, joining us here on the NL Morning News to talk about smart labels and smart label technology, how it can be useful in a variety of settings, including at your office. My thanks to John for joining us here this morning. The time is 6:55. This is the NL Morning News. I'll be back. Stick around.